My bad, sorry.
We're going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Breeden?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Heyman?
Here.
We have 4 present. Mr. Maurer is absent.
Okay, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
I can't remember. One.
One is yes.
Thank
two
you.
is no. It's at the top of it, too.
4 ayes, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Okay, I see no one with any comment on closed session, so we will go into closed session with 2 items. Thank you. Stand with me and all of us as we pledge allegiance to our flag and our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask that you remain standing and let's just have a brief silence and pray your own separate prayers, please. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, the city attorney's report.
Madam Mayor, 3 cases are listed on the agenda. City Council met in closed session on those items, was briefed by staff, gave direction, but no final action taken.
Thank you. I know of no presentations. All right. The next item is public comment on items not in the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City of Ridgecrest will not take any action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there any public comments? Come up, please, to the front. And please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Megan Richter. I am an engineer. First, I don't have a copy of the agenda. Nothing for the casinos on the agenda today. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So, just was reading up. It seemed that you guys were considering outside counsel for arbitration with the Timbasha tribe regarding land sales. Is that still accurate or no?
Would you address that, sir?
Sure. So first I'll say that in the closed session agenda, there is an ongoing arbitration matter that was filed against the city, and that is called Timbisha Shoshone Tribe versus City of Ridgecrest.
Okay.
So that's an arbitration matter. We don't discuss closed session matters in open session, but the City Council is using outside counsel.
So with that in mind, do you guys have avenues outside arbitration that you can seek to remedy this, or is that the only opportunity or alternative for you guys?
Yeah, we're not going to discuss matters that are ongoing.
Well then, I guess I have nothing to ask you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you, so could you say your name again? It was Megan?
Richter, like the scale?
Richter.
No
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Dave Matthews. Address is on file. Just like to make one statement. Our Constitution is under attack, not just the Second Amendment, not just the First Amendment, but the whole Constitution. So wake up, keep your eyes open, and act accordingly. In the last weekend's edition of the Daily Independent, there was a letter to the editor, and I'm sorry I forgot the lady's name, and I didn't write it down. However, she was from Inyukurn, I believe, and what she was saying was that she suggests that the Groundwater Authority ask the state Water Resources Board for an extension on the groundwater deadline because of the recent earthquake and a couple of other items probably I think was in there. And because the groundwater models that we have could have changed. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I suggest that perhaps the city council, as a separate entity, also ask for that extension. So that's all I got for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there others?
Mayor, can we ask if Mr. Mauer's on the line?
Pardon me?
Can we ask if Mr. Mauer's on the
Mike,
line?
are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Is there anything we can do to expedite that?
He's on the line. We just got to get him on the speaker. Gary's working on it. I heard him. I just need to make sure for roll call purposes and everything.
Okay.
I know he's there or not. So,
Mike, when you get on, would you speak so we know you're there? If you can hear us?
he said something. We heard him. Yeah. Just got to get him to go over our speaker so we can hear him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Mayor, good evening. Could I like to hand out a little handout to everybody first before I start?
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and start.
Thank you. Okay, you have some up here that you're going to place for the public if you want. Your 5 minutes, I'm going to give you a minute to get that out there. Let's just put it on the table, and if anybody wants it,
You just
Nigel.
set them there on the counter and they can get them.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Nigel White, Las Vegas casino developer. A couple of articles have come out in the newspaper recently, and one was from the Daily Independent. And it said the county commissioners didn't really like gambling, but they put their fiduciary duties to their voters and citizens ahead of their likes and their dislikes. So with that being said, I've handed out to everybody here a two-pager. Some of you have it on the back. There's a fact sheet which shows the economic growth and the benefits to the city of Ridgecrest on a casino entertainment project. Project cost $73 million. It has not deviated from anything I've said for the last 2 years. Nothing has changed. Gives the economic impact from an independent innovation group study, gives you the number of jobs, commitment to hire locally. In the last couple of weeks, the county commissioners in Bakersfield voted 4-0 with Mick Gleason absent, who actually supported a casino project in the county of Kern. They handed out and agreed to what's called a intergovernmental agreement, which is the same as the municipal services agreement, which the city of Ridgecrest signed with the tribe a few years ago. So after receiving a copy on yesterday of the intergovernmental agreement draft prepared by the county commissioner's office, I put a comparison together. And why was that comparison necessary? I believe there was much criticism of the previous council and criticism of the mayor at that time, who's sitting here before us. And it was said the deal wasn't a great deal, it was hurried, it was a crappy deal, basically. Well, guess what, folks? I have to tell you that putting side by side, pieces of paper by pieces of paper, Ridgecrest actually has got a better deal on their MSA for the citizens, the majority who support this project, And the numbers speak for themselves. So just going through it very briefly, it gives you a 20-year analysis comparison. The first column is Intergovernmental Agreement Kern County. The next column is the Municipal Services Agreement signed and authorized by the City Council of Ridgecrest. It shows a comparison of one-time payments and recurring payments. The bottom line is the total amount of money to be received by Kern County over a 20-year period is $218 million from the casino, from the Tohon tribe. Sounds like a big number. It is a big number. Ridgecrest, in comparison, gets about $30 million over 20 years. So how do you compare a huge project with a smaller project? Well, it's quite simple. You go to per capita numbers, and you look at various key components, and you compare it on a level playing field. So with that being said, if you take the number of citizens in Kern County and compare that to the $218 million that Kern County receives, that's $597 a citizen. If you take the 27,587 people population per Wikipedia, Ridgecrest citizens over a 20-year period receive $1,087 a person. Wow. I guess we can all figure out where the more favorable deal is. If you look at it, on the Kern County side, $140 million goes to general fund, $77 goes to a fire fund. On the Ridgecrest Municipal Services Agreement, basically the $30 million all goes into the general fund. If you take the project cost, the Kern County project cost is $600 million, the Ridgecrest project is $73 million. So if you take the amount of money on the value of those and divide that by project cost, 36% of that goes to Kern County, and Ridgecrest gets 41%. So the moral of the story is, I guess it says stop. You guys are crazy not to look at this deal a little more hardly and make sure you get it signed and follow your MSA, avoid litigation, and avoid a big hit to the city's coffers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Evening, Council. My name is Scott Miller. I'm a citizen of Ridgecrest. Mr. Martin, is there something interesting on the wall over there? I'm not sure if Mr. Martin's okay right now. Are you okay, Mr. Martin?
It's okay.
Okay, just wasn't sure. I have a couple of things here. First and foremost, as we all know, we have an active MSA in play with the tribe, signed by the City of Ridgecrest and City Council. That was agreed upon by Council. And I want to talk about a couple of different things. One of the things I find interesting is we have a plot of land that was for sale for, I think, 17 years, and the tribe was wanting to buy it for $5.5 million. And that, I think the city gets about half of that, so it's $2.5 million. And then, as Nigel just said, a little over $1,000 a citizen. As the attorney said last time I was up here, that they're being forced to defend themselves. Yes, because the city was said to meet and confer, where the city could meet with the tribe and talk about it. But I realize we don't talk about that, but I can because it's my right. The city chose not to do the meet and confer. On that same breath, just after the MSA was signed, there was a council or a committee formed with the City of Ridgecrest and the tribe. And during that, Councilperson Stevens is the chairperson of that, and former Chief Golson was co-chair on that. They've only met one time. The city's had ample time to meet and confer and talk. I honestly don't remember who said this. I can guess, but I don't like guessing. The council at one point said there's been nothing to talk about. there's also, council has said, actually, we'll go back to this. Ms. Stevens said, and there's a recording of it, and I could play it if you'd like me to, that she publicly has been against the casino, and I respect that. I respect a person's right to be against things, but I don't respect the right to infer your own beliefs on me or the citizens of Ridgecrest. With $1,000 a head over the next 20 years, that's a lot of money. Mr. Pitchen, I don't know if you can answer this question because it's an active. However, as a citizen, I'm requesting this, and I can go with another form if this doesn't work. We've had outside counsel, or we've asked for outside counsel. Do we know the price tag on that, or do I need to do a official document to ask that question?
To ask what question?
How much this outside attorney is costing?
There's actually case law on that while a matter is pending, that's attorney-client privileged.
So no is the answer until that's handled. Okay, fair
That's
enough.
right.
So actually, I think that's, other than, I really wanted to play that. You know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Before I play it, can I play a recording?
It's within your 5 minutes.
Maybe I'm not going to play a recording. Yeah, I'm not going to play a recording. Anyway, guys, I don't know how else to express myself. I've talked to many people over the last couple of weeks at various community events talking about this project. It's something that's right for the city. You may not agree with it religiously, and I respect that. I'm okay with that. You may not agree with it personally. I'm okay with that too. Don't go. However, we have a signed agreement with the tribe. And with that, I'll let you go about your business. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Richard Wagner, 408 South Lincoln. Many of you on the council weren't here when I told my story a few years ago. I'm a gambling addict. I love to gamble. I love casinos. I just want to say that $1,000 a head will cost me over 20 years a couple $100,000. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other comment? Okay, thank you. We will close public comment then, and we will come to council announcements. Is there any council announcements? Lindsay? No? Willis? Scott? I'd just like to say thank you. We had an amazing event last night. It was a joy to work. It was an amazing event to attend. I want to thank all the people that funded it, all the people that made it happen, in particular Toyota of Ridgecrest and the Evan Etosh Foundation, as well as many, many others who donated and were not named, the Lions Club and others. And I am so very proud of this community. It was, and our the Ridgecrest Police Department and did Pear also? No, just the Ridgecrest Police Department? Okay. And all of them who made this happen. There was a Kern County Fire Department, and it was, if any of you missed it, you missed a heart-filling, amazing event. And I am so proud of this community coming together and saying, count me in, because I'm going to help and make this community even better by giving as I can to help others to raise funds to make help fix those homes that have been damaged and people have been hurt for the earthquake. So thank you, Chief, and all the others involved. You deserve huge thanks from all of us. Okay,
Mayor?
the next item.
I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about. What kind of an event?
Last night here there was a movie. There was I'm exaggerating, 3,000 people out here. We had food that was donated, there was food that was sold, there was monies donated, and the place, you couldn't find a parking space anywhere in the city and up and down Channel Lake Boulevard.
It was called National Night Out. It's for the police around the country have events for the community to come out and engage with the police officers in a positive way. So.
Well, the word didn't get to some of us.
Sorry. It was in the newspapers.
It was on the newspapers, on the
it was
website, everywhere.
yeah.
All sorts of radio.
I
It was on the
don't
radio.
think, I don't think, Dave, forgive us, I don't think we announced it at the last council meeting, and I guess we should have done that, but.
Well, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir. Next time we'll try to do better to make sure you know about it. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Mayor, can I ask to see if Mr. Mauer's on the line yet?
Mike?
Mr. Mauer?
I've been on the line all the time. Can you
He's been
I
on the
think
line the
we
whole
just
time. I
can't
heard
hear
him. We
him.
just can't hear him, which is going to be unfortunate for votes.
Or if he has a question.
Or if he has a question, yeah. Oh, I heard him.
Can we
What'd you
turn him
catch,
up?
Gary?
hear me?
We can hear him
Yes.
now,
I
Gary.
yell on the phone for you to hear me.
Keep talking, Mike, Mr. Mauer.
Sing for us.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Or yes, ma'am. I can keep talking.
Okay,
In fact, I'd like to go back to council announcements.
okay, we can hear you now, so go ahead.
Okay. Many of you know my appointment to the Planning Commission. Warren Cox. He's been in the hospital. He has to have a new heart. I just request people's prayers and concerns for him while he's trying to recover.
Thank you.
That's it.
I did ask all the planning commission and staff and the council to consider him in prayers, a good man. We're hoping for fast recovery. Has he had the transplant yet? Of yesterday, he hadn't. Do you know anything, Mike?
He's on the list, but he hasn't had it. He's on the list, but he has not had a transplant.
Okay. Thank you.
Got to wait for a heart.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff, and we approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, that item will be removed from the consent calendar and be considered separately with public comment before action is taken. I will read the four items. Proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City of Ridgecrest City Council successor, Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority, Housing Authority special meeting dated January 9th. Number 2, proposed action to approve draft minutes of the City Council successor, Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority, Housing Authority regular meeting dating July 17th. A resolution of the City Council authorizing the destruction of certain accounting records. Number 4, resolution of the City Council authorizes city manager to enter in a memorandum of agreement with Sierra Sands Unified School District for law enforcement services school resource officer program. Is there anybody in the council would like any of these items pulled?
Number 4, please.
Is there any in the public who would like any of these items pulled? What?
3.
3. Okay, a motion to approve 1 and 2.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All vote, please.
Give him 1 second so we can modify the voting slide.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay? Because some items were pulled, he has to modify the slide. Go ahead, please vote.
Ricky, would you cast my ballot yes?
Oh, you know what? Now that he's on the line, we have to do roll call. I apologize.
Okay.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Yes.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, item number 3. A resolution of the City Council authorizing the destruction of certain accounting records. Sir, you asked for that to be pulled?
Yes, I'm sorry. Richard Wagner, 408 Lincoln. This might just be my inexperience. Are these records electronic? Do we have electronic records of these documents? Or is it hard copy only?
Most of them are
You want to get
electronic.
closer.
Okay, but my concern is even I hold my records at least 7 years, and that's my utilities and whatnot. Some of these are just 5 years, and if we're pulling hard copies and destroying them after 5 years, I think it's just not wise. I think we would want to keep records longer than that.
We do keep electronic copies of some of them, but this is a state guideline that most cities and government entities follow.
I can understand that, but just to protect yourselves, wouldn't you feel comfortable keeping records longer than 5 years?
And like
I
said,
do, personally. That's all. Maybe that's just how we do it.
We are following state recommendations, and because we don't have the hard copy doesn't mean we don't have the electronic
Right.
copy. So we still have records we can go back to.
Okay. Okay, as long as we have records, that's cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions?
Do any of these particular records deal with this, some of the controversial issues that we're dealing with concerning the casino or other issues, or are they just routine? What are these records that we?
it's mainly routine things, invoices, payroll documents, that sort of thing, business licenses that are no longer valid.
Okay, so not all of these documents are backed up digitally. You've
Most of
indicated
them.
that some are. What?
We scan all of our invoices, all of our payroll documentation, anything that I just mentioned, we scan in, and it's in our financial system.
Okay, so of these, what are we talking about? 20 boxes or something? So,
Yeah.
So of the 20 boxes, what percentage of that is in fact scanned?
Off of the top of my head, I would say at least 85% of it is scanned, and I would have to double check on that.
Okay, but of those that are not scanned and we intend to destroy, have you made a personal assessment as to what those things are, and is there no reason for us to keep that data?
Yeah, there's no reason. It's a routine thing that we do every year. I can't think of anything that
Okay,
we
so
would need to
you're
keep.
aware of it, and the city manager, are you aware of the items that we're throwing away?
Yes. If we don't, then what ends up happening is we have a backlog of boxes and boxes of paper copies. And at one point in time, we had so much paper in the building, we were renting storage units to store it in.
Okay, I'm all in favor as long as there's nothing in there and you have purview that none of the things that you're throwing away deal with this casino issue or other controversial issues that could be an issue later. Lloyd?
That's what I'm hearing. I mean, if council would like to give direction to do something different, then that's up to the council.
Okay, all right, thank you.
In the listing of the items, they're pretty
Yeah.
ordinary.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay, a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden,
Oh, aye.
No.
Ms. Stevens,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
All right.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, Lindsay, you asked for item number 4, your question?
Yes, we did not have our action committee meeting this spring, so I just wanted to check in to see, is 2 still, adequate? Have we seen an increase in problems? Do we need to look at adding another person, at least part-time, or?
What I've done is I put in there was a new grant available through a tobacco grant, actually. So we put in for 2, waiting to hear. We actually partnered with Kern County on that. So we put in for 2, hoping to get 1. And the COPS grant was just released. They won a court battle over that. So those were just released, and we're also going to put in for that as well. So we're hoping out of the 3, we get another one.
So then we would get a third school resource officer. Would we still do the half funding, or would we be full funding that one?
I think with the tobacco grant, it's full funding, and we wrote it for 5 years. So it would be full funding for 5 years. So if we did get both, it'd be full funding for 5 years for 2.
And that would be 2 additional, not paying for these
Correct.
ones.
We put
Okay.
in for 2 additional, so we wouldn't be augmenting 2 current staff, we'd be adding 2.
Good.
So, yeah, it'd
And
be
the
good.
half is still the half. on the
This,
one.
this would be still the half,
Yeah, it's
the
the
2
one,
half, and then these would be 2 additional new officers added that would be paid for the 5 years. And then the COPS grant, we're waiting to see what percentage they're willing to
Okay.
pay.
And then do we have a timeline of when we know that those decisions might be made?
I hope it's soon. I think we'll hear within the next month on the grant we've already put in for, and then the COPS grant is due at the end of this month, I believe, so within a few months on that one.
And then would we need to hire additional police officers to fill those positions?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Public?
Chief, I think you, Scott Miller, City of Ridgecrest. Chief, I think you just answered this. The total number is $121,000 or something like that? Is that what I understood?
Our estimated for next year is 151.
151, okay.
Yes.
And do we know the approximate dollar amount that would come out of general fund for that, or the police funds for that? Or are we waiting for the final numbers from the appropriate grant process? Did that make sense?
No. Okay, so
Questions there.
for our half, the estimated half is 151.
That's the Ridgecrest half.
Correct. So we would get half back from Sierra Sands, and this is 2 officers for Sierra Sands, so the estimated is 151,000.
So the total number is 151, but then there's a grant from Sierra
Totally
Sands.
separate.
Totally separate. But
Yeah.
does that take away from the 151?
No.
The 151 is the dollar amount that comes out of.
No, we're talking 2 different things. We were talking 2 different things. We put in for a grant to add additional school resource officers through different grant opportunities. There was a tobacco grant available, so we put in for 2, hoping to get 1.
Got it.
If we do get 2, that's great.
So we have 2. Sorry, we have 2 currently,
Mm-hmm.
and the 2 grants asking for 2 more, hoping to get at least 2, but essentially 1.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they cover every school in Sierra Sands, the 2 that we have currently. And Burroughs is a full-time job for 1, and the 2 middle schools is a full-time job for 1.
And you're getting a new one too.
And now they're just adding another one to us
Right.
with Richmond moving to Buick.
Got it.
So having one that covers the middle schools and Inyokern, we cover Inyokern as well. So they need another one, possibly 2. 2 would be nice. 1 would be helpful.
I probably know the answer to this. Does Inyokern, is there any type of monetary mediation that we get from Inyokern on that, or isn't Inyokern part of the county?
Sierra Sands? Yeah, it's Sierra Sands.
Okay, the school district itself. Okay, got it.
Right.
Okay.
That brought up a question for me, though. The charter school, have we ever asked them if they would be interested in having a school resource officer and partnering with us?
They have approached us in the past, but that's where it ended. We talked last year, but then they weren't sure what was going to happen, but we haven't discussed anything this year yet.
Okay.
Lindsay, that brings up, we have more than just the 1 charter school. I think we have 3 charter schools. Perhaps a 1-page note could be brought up to those guys saying, hey, we have these officers available, and there can be some monetary reinforcement from that process also. Just a thought.
Yeah. We'd have to hire more to do that right now, though. We can't augment without hiring additional to cover those schools also right now. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay. Any other public comments? Okay, any other council comments?
No.
Motion.
Please keep us up to date on those grants.
I will.
So, thank you. I motion approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item, resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council confirming the continuance of a local emergency. Sir?
That's you.
Yeah, that's you.
He distracted it.
Yes, as you know, we have to do this within 30 days each time, continue our resolution of the declaration of the emergency. We're still within our 30 days, so it is time. And with the continued assessments, we still need to do our sewer system, which is coming up. We should have that done here within the next couple of weeks. And with the continued aftershocks, and now we are in the recovery phase and bringing in, right now we're trying to bring in some sort of long-term housing possible, which we'll be discussing Friday. For the displaced residents, we're hoping that we can get something worked out with Cal OES on that. So I recommend that council extend the resolution and we reassess in the first meeting of next month, which would be prior to 30 days.
Is there any questions from council? Any questions from the public?
Oh, actually, I did have one really fast. Can you give us a public update on the status of the FEMA and SBA and so on
Sure.
and so forth?
So here today, with the help of the governor, Director Ghilarducci of Cal OES, Congressman McCarthy and Senator Grove and Assemblyman Fong, we received the SBA declaration today. SBA launched already en route, so they will be here tomorrow, setting up at the Kerr-McGee Center and opening as soon as Friday at 9 a.m. And they will be open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I have flyers up here. We just released it, press release on Facebook with all of the information that's contained in these packets, the interest rates and directions on how to fill out applications, but you can go to the center as well and do that as soon as Friday morning. FEMA, we did not meet FEMA standards, so FEMA is not going to come in and provide any assistance. So we are going to hold a meeting, I believe it's August 19th is the date we set, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or
I don't think it's been solidified yet, but we're
yeah, I
working
think
on
that's
that
what
date.
we're shooting for, was
Yes.
August 19th, which will provide training, so I'll be able to give updates on more on that after that meeting, what's going to be available at the state level for our citizens and businesses. What we haven't been waiting, as you know, the citizens and organizations around Ridgecrest have been doing a lot for the people. And I have a meeting Friday, teleconference, where we're going to be talking about the launch of the VOAD, which is the Volunteer Organizations Assisting in Disaster. So that's where we're at right now. And again, part of the meeting is where we want to discuss is how we get the displaced persons with the mobile homes, houses that are red tagged or destroyed, how we get them some long-term housing. We think we have a solution to that. Now it's just a matter of getting that solution here in Ridgecrest. So hopefully we have somewhat of an answer on Friday.
I'm going to have Bard go ahead and give an update on our public works damage.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I'm going to start with the home inspections because it's probably the most interest to our citizens anyway. We've had approximately just over 1,000 total inputted items. Some of them are duplicates and stuff. We're still sorting that out. We've done 545 inspections. There's still some pending. We have a total of 80 red tag, 63 yellow tag, and 402 of those are green tags. So there's still, green tag means that the house is totally operational. There's not a structural damage. It might be cracking and stuff, but the people are safe to be in their homes. Wastewater. The clarifier that we had serious problems with, we finally got our parts in. We got it completely repaired. We did all of our regular maintenance while it was drawn down. It just makes sense to do the stuff you're supposed to do when they're drawn down. We drew down one after that because it seemed to be skipping a little bit. As it turned out, the chain that on one of the sides that drives the clarifier had actually come off the sprocket, but it was down below the water level, and we couldn't, the sewage level, and we couldn't see that it was off the sprocket. Luckily, it continued to run, because if we'd been down 2, then we would have had to gone direct flow out to the ponds, and that's not it's not illegal, but it's not a good thing. So we pulled one down. We've got that one repaired completely. We've pulled 2. There's 3 clarifiers. We pulled 2 down, and it's currently being inspected. We put out a request for proposals on cleaning out the sewer pipes, and then inspecting them, and then comparing them to what we did 4 years ago. We got back 4 today. We have not had a chance to review them yet with Willdan before making a choice on who we're going to move ahead with. We're actually got a meeting set up Monday to do that. We have a bid in to fix the water lines that are out there. We were running everything with just hoses to get water to where we needed it. We got a bid in. It was $27,000 with a combination of Cardinal and I'm sorry, I get two in town, the 2 big ones in town, for about $27,000. We moved forward with that. We spent 3 days 2 weeks ago after we got notice from Forest with Caltrans that we needed to have all of our inspections done as quick as we could. We went out and drove. There's 4 or 5 designations. There's major arterials, major collectors, minor collectors, and then just residential streets. We inspected all of the major arterials, the minor arterials, all of the major collectors, and a handful of the minor collectors, so that we could get enough information to estimate the rest. We've gotten pictures of all of them. We've got the type of roads so that we can, and we've calculated how many miles. Of what we inspected in those 3 days, we have 55 miles of new or widened cracks on the roads that we looked at. We should have all the paperwork into Caltrans next week. It's not due till October 31st for the roads, but we should have it all in for the preliminary assessment next week. Am I missing anything you wanted me to talk about?
I think that's all.
Well, I have a question for you. So how many miles of, say that again, and the cracks in the roads?
Yes, 55 miles of cracks, new or widened.
Well, is our new machine can help with that?
No. The slurry machine will take care of very thin minor cracks, hairline to maybe 1/8 of an inch, but regular cracking has to be filled with either crack fill, or in the wide cracks, in our case, we'll actually have to do dig outs and patch it back with asphalt to make it work right.
Yeah. Well, I guess my question deals with is if we're putting in lists of things for equipment to fix and so forth. I'm just brainstorming here. Is there something there? Is there any type of specialized equipment that would help do that quickly or more efficiently that we could put on a list?
One of the things for crack fill that you can have is crack fill machines, and we already have one. We have trained crews, but if we were to do this ourselves, it would take several years. We wouldn't be able to do anything else at all. So we plan to put this out to bid.
And just to clarify, it's reimbursable up to what percentage?
About 75%. And we've actually got our approval already for the roads.
Right.
Now, I will remind council that reimbursable is not the same thing as them fronting the money.
Right.
So just as a reminder.
All right, thank
Any other questions?
Well,
yeah,
we do.
I'd just like to. Oh, sorry, sir.
Go ahead. We do have some damage to the city buildings, some stucco damage. So here in the next couple weeks, Mr. Patton will be addressing that issue so we can get the stucco fixed. It appears to all to be just minor damage, nothing structural, but we still need to get it fixed because there's some pieces that if we leave over time with the heat and the cold, it'll break off and be big chunks of the columns missing. So we will be moving forward on that. So the hope is that within the next 4 to 6 months, we will have all of our damage repaired.
On the building.
Can I just jump?
All the damage if we can.
One more thing. It's the parking lot has had quite a bit of cracks widened as well. One of the ways, and I think I've mentioned this last time we talked about that, as you can tell, is generally when it's this hot, the cracks should be as closed as they're going to get, and the crack fill should be poking out as opposed to being sunk. If you drive through the parking lot or you drive through a lot of the roads in town, you'll see that the crack fill is actually sunk into the crack itself, which tends to indicate that you're going to have, well, the cracks have widened, and you need to fix the problem. So the parking lot was brought to Cal OES's attention as well. So whether we get reimbursed or not, we'll probably take care of that at the same time, just as an update.
So yeah, my primary focus is the displaced people and the yellow tags. So that's where we're working at, is trying to find the long-term solution and getting the people help that have the yellow tagged houses or residences and getting their properties fixed to where it's sustainable, that should we have, a significant aftershock, that their property's not going to end up getting red tagged as a result of that. So that's where we're moving it in the coming days and weeks. So then the only other thing I have is September 11th, the governor's Seismic Safety Commission is doing their public hearing right here in our council chambers. So it's open to the public, and there's a lot of people that are coming and speaking from all around the state, so as well as a lot of our own people. So I recommend everybody come and attend. So that's it, unless any other questions.
Just a quick question to either one. I'm just curious, of the red tag and the yellow tag, just to give people somewhat of a feel, what would you say is the majority major safety situation that caused both red tag and or yellow tag?
The red tags would be the mobile homes. They're the majority. The mobile homes coming off of their foundations.
Coming off of the foundation,
yeah.
Okay. And then the yellow tag?
I don't have an exact number for the 63, but of the ones I've read, most of them are chimneys that have come loose.
Chimneys.
That type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of this, there was a couple of them with truss damage, if I remember correctly, but mainly it was like chimneys that were brick that had come loose and were in danger of falling.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. One of the things we made sure that we told each of those people is if they were anywhere close to their neighbor, to make sure the neighbor knew about it so that they
Right.
could stay away from areas where it might have come down at as well.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. On the SBA reps that are going to be in town, on the SBA reps that are going to be in town, any idea how long that they're going to be here?
Yeah, they said they estimate being here 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks, okay. And then my other question is more toward Bard. On the roads, so if I understand this right, we're looking at going ahead and getting the process started on the repairs, going out of pocket on it, and then seeking reimbursement, which has already been approved preliminarily. Is that right? Or am I...
The answer is yes, we're going out of pocket, and we'll get the roads fixed. Now, what I meant by approval is they've approved the roads for emergency, okay? Whether or not they'll approve cracks completely, I don't know that we know for sure yet. that the doubt was FEMA for sure, but I'm not I'm not willing to promise that Cal OES will say, you know, for sure yes. But the governor has approved roads being fixed with this emergency.
Is there any way to find that out?
Well, when we get the data turned in next week, then they'll evaluate it and let us know.
And then, can you get back with council on, you know, as far as the filling of the cracks, how the technique and construction process they'll be using? If they're going to fill it.
It will depend on how wide the cracks are. So, but I'll bring a full thing to the infrastructure committee for sure, probably, and then council for sure. Okay. And you'll have to approve the contract as well, where I'll have to explain everything to you as well. So, but I'm sure what you're asking me is you'd like to know about it beforehand, and sure.
Yes, and the cost and the quality of the crack filling. Is it going to be asphalt filled in, you know, bigger cracks, or, you know? You realize I'll be able to estimate, but I won't be able to give you a cost until I bring you a bid for you to approve. Sure. Okay, thanks. That's it.
I have a quick question. Is there a way to kind of, and I don't know if we can do this, give like kind of price ranges for the general kind of work that needs to be done to make sure that our citizens aren't getting taken advantage of for the repairs?
One of the things, I'm sorry, the answer is not really, because every situation is different. But what we've done is put on the website in the center where you click for the quake damage, there's a list of licensed contractors for this area, as well as all the information you need on mobile home repairs, as well as all the structural engineers in the area, that type of thing. That's been on there since week 1 or 2. So that would be our major suggestion, is that, well, they're required to use a licensed contractor anyway, but we're seriously recommending that they use a licensed contractor as well.
Well, I just want a cautionary note, because I've had 2 constituents that called me on this. If you don't go up on the roof, right, and watch what's being done and take pictures, you can have a handyman go up there with some grout, and one guy push it back and grout it up, and away we go. There's technique 1. Technique 2, I'm not you know the issue, but for chimneys, I would imagine chimneys would have to be rebar, should they not?
Chimneys generally are not. They're attached in places, but not well, you know, in any kind of construction. They're not made in most cases to withstand this type of shaking. What happens in most cases, and I've seen it already started in a few, is you actually have to take it down to wherever the cracks were, tie it back in, and then rebuild it.
So of all of I was just interested in this, because then we have all of these codes that we have to meet the permits for, and everything has to be safe and secure and signed off. But on something that's as important as this, it could fall and kill a child if they're running next door and this thing topples. I guess my question to you, I mean, I would think that the state and the building code would require rebar in chimneys. I mean, I would just imagine that. They seem to require everything for everything else.
I know I had mine repaired. I didn't get an inspection done, but I just saw that my chimney had cracked. And they put rebar in, because basically what he said is at the point that there wasn't rebar is where it cracked and was about to fall off.
So, you know, my knowledge is obviously slightly out of date. So there you go.
But
if you look at some of the older fences, or not fences, but block walls that fell that didn't have rebar, those are the ones that came down.
They're the ones that came down. I get the only reason I'm saying, Bart, is that if there was some kind of guidelines that y'all could put together as for people, or a notice to licensed contractors or whoever on this issue, just so that people, you know that probably rebar should be done to make this thing structural and safe. Of course, that's going to elevate the price significantly, but I think that the consumers need to know, because I've heard of 4 brick walls just falling over. Those have no rebar, they topple. Those that have rebar don't. So I think it's an issue that I think that the city could take a position on in a little note or a box, or notify the contractors, or at least put something on the website as a cautionary note that if you're doing this, I don't know what it is, and I don't know if it should have rebar just from that place, or if the thing really needs to be rebuilt. I don't know that.
I guess my thought on this is that the current inspectors and the current people that license this to be done do know all the current standards. So in other words, a licensed contractor that can handle brickwork knows that it needs to be rebar in it. We have signs outside the building that says that it's illegal to do work, in this zone without being a licensed contractor. So if they hire a licensed contractor, they get the correct permits, then the work will be done correctly.
Yeah, I think that where they get in trouble is when they hire the handyman that doesn't know what the code is.
Right. And just to clarify, you didn't have to have your house inspected if you noticed that the chimney if you notice something was wrong and you get it fixed.
Right.
Then.
Right. We offered that as a courtesy so that, wanted to make people comfortable that, so that
Right.
If they saw something
They
in their
could feel
house, so that
comfortable. Yes.
it was peace of mind.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions for the council? Any other questions from the public? Oh, okay.
Yeah, hi, Dave Matthews. I have one question and also a word of advice. I have a two-story house. I've had have a chimney, and from what I can see, there's no cracks, no bricks missing or anything like that. However, I would like to get somebody to come and actually look down the thing or something and make sure, because I didn't hear anything falling down the chimney, so I don't think there's anything down there. But the word of advice that I have is I just had an air conditioning man come out and check my air conditioning system, because I had that even before it got so humid and the earthquake occurred. And what he found was the ducting going up the top of the furnace in the air conditioning ductwork had wider cracks than before, and he thinks that some of that crack had opened during the earthquake. So there's one thing that people might tend to overlook, and I just want to throw that out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
The inspections that the city and the loaner inspectors we had and stuff were all visual, so they wouldn't handle what Mr. Matthews is requesting. We would suggest that he hires a licensed chimney type contractor to inspect the work to make sure it's safe if he has concerns.
Thank you.
Bart, are you talking about repairing of a chimney or just an inspection to see if it's damaged?
Well, the people that we had will look at it from the outside to look for cracks and stuff, and Mr. Matthews has already done that.
So they won't, just so I'm clear on it.
We don't climb on the roof, we don't look
They won't go
down
up into the attic and look?
They have looked in attics, okay?
Okay.
But generally just open the hole and take a look at trusses that are damaged, that type of thing.
Right.
And generally only by request, okay? But, they don't climb on roofs, they didn't, that type of thing. They were looking for general damage. When we found a chimney, it was a problem. It was pretty much, you could see it, that it was at a funny angle. You could see serious cracking in it from the ground, that type of thing.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi there, Scott Miller, City of Ridgecrest. I don't know if this is a city thing, but it could be. On the south side of Ward, where the walls came down, as Mr. Martin was talking about, is there a way the city can go and pick up all those broken bricks that are sitting on the sidewalks, which I'm assuming are city property, but it's all down the south side of Ward where the bricks came down? I don't know if that's the homeowner's responsibility, but it's on what appears to
By
be
Starbucks? The one by Starbucks?
Yeah, the whole south side. I haven't been
That's
there in
not
like 3
ours.
days.
Yeah, it's the homeowner.
It's homeowners when it's on when it's on the side. Okay, cool. Didn't know the answer. Thank you.
Did
they know
Didn't
that?
they pick those up yet? I know they redid the fence or the block wall. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll have code go look at it.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, any other council comment? Okay, motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Thank you, Jan.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is item number 6, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign for HVAC units to include one 17-year-old failed unit and 19 30-year-old original units using unallocated tab funds in the amount not to exceed $350,000. Okay, who has that?
I have it. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, what I have before you is a HVAC renovation project. As you know, that the City Hall and the Kerr-McGee Center were built in 1989. It was opened in December of '89, so we'll be hitting our 30-year mark here this year. City Hall has 9 HVAC units, and the Kerr-McGee Center has 15 HVAC units. And what these units are is they provide both heating, ventilation, and air conditioning to the buildings. So we have a total of 24 units. The problem is that we still have 18 of the original 24 units still in service. Typically, the serviceable life of these units is 15 to 20 years. The vendor said that it was more of 15 years. However, we went out to 15 or 20. City Hall has 4 original units left, and Kerr-McGee has 14 original units that are still on the building. Right now, we have a HVAC that was replaced in 2002 in City Hall that's 17 years old that is broken. Right now, the vendor states it's going to be $20,000 to fix it or $30,000 to replace it. This is the AC unit that takes care of the atrium where you walk up the stairs or take the elevator. We did have some afternoons here recently where the atrium reached about 95 degrees in temperature, causing the city clerk to have to close her window to keep from being overheated. We have another HVAC unit that's on the Kerr-McGee Center that's temporarily fixed with plumber tape because the unit's obsolete and there no longer exists any parts to fix it. And that is a problem with all of the 18 remaining units. It's becoming very difficult when they break to find parts. Of the 18 units, 18 of them are 30 years old and no longer serviceable condition. The problem is that it's a higher cost to replace them on an individual basis. So if we just stay status quo and the units begin to fail 1 or 2 a year, we have to then each year come out and have a crane come out, put it up on the roof, so we have the cost of the crane. And also we'd be doing it by onesie or twosies. So by replacing them all at one time, we have a little bit more of a scale of economy, and you'll have the units be much more efficient. So our recommendation is to replace the remaining 18 units in the broke unit, which is a total of 19. I know in the staff report it was 19 and 1, but it's actually a total of 19. We believe that replacing all the units at one time will save money and mobilization costs and also the scale of economy. The one quote that we got said that we'd save about $25,000 in costs for crane and a break that we get on the cost by more units for buying more units at one time. The new units would be up to 27% more efficient, lowering our utility costs. The initial quote that we got to replace the 19 units was $315,000 plus or minus 10%. However, they would still need to go out to bid. And we would recommend allocating $350,000 of the remaining TAB funds for the project. So I think this is important. We have been
involved in deferred maintenance of our facilities for quite some time. I believe Penny Pool is a prime example of deferred maintenance. We didn't take care of it for a long period of time, and the costs got out of control. With the AC units, they are going to continue to break. They are problematic when they do go out. It is a discomfort for staff. I know it wasn't too long ago in the council conference room that the AC wasn't working. I think it was a year ago that the AC wasn't working in here in Public Works. We had to have it replaced. We should have replaced these some time ago, probably a decade ago. We really have to start taking care of this facility, or we're going to get to the point where we're going to have a huge bill here in the next few years to start taking care of it. So my recommendation is to move forward, utilizing this extra tab money, putting it out to bid, and getting the units replaced. The issue is we still have a couple of the units that were more than likely replaced in 2002 that are 17 years old, but there's only a couple of them. So we'd have to look at maybe in the next 3 or 4 years replacing those also if it's deemed needed. So I'm open to any questions.
I had a couple. So the price for replacing the one was quoted at $30,000 to replace it, and so 30,000 times 19 is $510,000. But you're saying they told us $315,000 for 19 units?
Correct, because the unit in the atrium is a lot larger unit.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have to upscale it because the unit that's currently on there is undersized and is causing it to work harder than it should. So we need a larger unit to be able to handle that atrium.
Did we ask the question if he thinks it's efficient to continue to? That atrium is a big, wide open space with lots of windows. Is there any other solutions he has for that area?
Well, he's, air conditioning. I mean, they're there to replace the air conditioners in the current design. Yes, there's things we can do. There is like ceramic coating that we can put on the windows. That's expensive. As you can see, we do have some sort of covering on them now, but I believe those were put on there well over 20 years ago during another energy efficiency project with the city. We could eventually drywall them in, insulate them, drywall them, but that's an expense to that. But regardless of what we do, we still have to have an air conditioner in that area because it does, if you've noticed, we've kept a lot of the doors that are shut into the other areas of the city because what was happening was that as the day would go by, the hallways and the bathrooms would start to warm up, and it'd actually start to warm up in administration, and so causing those other units to work harder. So we still need to replace it. And yes, I think that in time, if we can find a way of aesthetically addressing that, I think it'd be a good idea. I mean, we could replace it with better dual pane windows, but that's going to have a significant cost.
Okay. And then did we look at if there's any purchasing contracts available for these air conditioning units?
No, we have not. This was a quote that we got from our vendor that does all of our work, BMI. They've been, there's a copy of it here. They've been a very responsive company to the city. They're based out of Bakersfield. They do really good work. In other words, we're not having to call them back after they've done the job. And, we have bale wired together. In fact, I got a picture of the one that, photo there on the left is the one that's secured together with plumber's tape because they just don't have the parts. And that's the big concern is as they break, there's not the parts to fix it.
And then how much of the tab funds are left?
It would leave approximately $30,000 left.
Okay.
But on the glass specifically in the big building, wasn't there a contract early on because there was a problem with the glass that we originally chosen? I thought that all the glass was changed via contract, I thought, with Mike's outfit, but I could be wrong. But to do double pane, are you telling me that's single pane glass in that building?
Yes. It's the same glass that's been here when they built the building. I was here when they built it.
So we've never changed the glass in that building?
No.
Covered it.
We put a film on it. We put a
Wow.
tint. We put a tint on it. Now there are other window applications that we could place on there. I know that they have a ceramic window tinting that may help it a little bit, but really at the end of the day, we have a solar field that's generating more electricity than we're using at this point in time. However, our issue is not the amount of electricity using, it's the demand of electricity that we're using. We just recently finished a project where we replaced all of our fluorescent bulbs with LED. There was a grant through SE that we took advantage of, so we got about $6,200 worth of bulbs, and staff during this whole crazy process over the last month, we found time to install them all. In fact, it caused a failure of a few ballasts that we had anticipated. We had about a 10% failure in ballasts, and we replaced them. So these new fluorescents went from 32 watts a bulb down to 12 watts a bulb. So we're saving about 60 some odd % in demand. We're hoping that also by replacing the ACs that we'll see a reduction in that demand too, because we're looking at upwards to about a 27% savings in electrical use currently. So we're hoping we reduce our demand. I know we have the new splash pad that's also putting a demand. I think by just replacing these lights and the ACs will offset that, and we should see some savings in our electrical costs.
Well, I know just from a residential standpoint, because I've researched the different units for homes to try to keep electric costs down, and I know that Mitsubishi, there's a couple of companies that are absolutely leading the pack, and with dramatic, not a little bit, dramatic savings. So I guess my question is, who has done the research concerning, I understand that, I think it's great, it needs to be done, but concerning what you're putting in this thing, who did the research on the most efficient units for this thing?
Well, it looks like they're recommending a Carrier product and a York product. Now, obviously, the higher the SEER,
right,
the more expensive the unit.
So what SEER are these?
I have no idea. Like I said, this was just a quote for us to get started. This isn't the bid process.
Okay.
Well, and that's why I asked about the purchasing contract, because then we don't have to go through the bid process.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that. I mean, obviously, this was just more of securing the funding and then, moving forward from there.
Right. I think it's great, Ron. I just would, at the next step, though, sometimes that we don't come back and look at these things. I think that we need to, your staff need, or someone needs to do a quick study on the SEER ratings, the efficiency ratings, and the companies. And I don't know how these came up on the list, but I would look at Mitsubishi and one or two of the others who are absolutely setting the industry on fire with new, highly energy efficient products.
Well, Mitsubishi would not be doing the installation. It would be a company that would be installing it. Like I said, we've had a very good response with BMI. In fact, we did put out a request for quote for local contractors. However, this job's probably a little too big for our current folks, but we will put it out to bid also, again, to everybody with, our current specifications.
Right.
But really, we're looking at replacing, just the 30-year-old units, as well as the one from 2002 in the atrium that needs to be upsized and replaced.
Could we have the quality of life committee kind of oversee that as they move along, just as he suggested, so that then we're kind of tied in with, overseeing what we're getting? And
yeah, we can bring it back to quality of life. I know that there's going to be a period of time when we need to install them, and I would assume here probably October, November timeframe is going to be a good time, between it being extremely hot and extremely cold, because you still remember we have staff that works in the building, And our thought would be is to have them all replaced at the same time, because you only have one crane that comes out once. They put it up all on the
Right,
roof.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so we're trying to do it in such a way that we can do it as cost effectively as possible. But however, keeping in mind, we don't want to do it too cheap, because we don't want to buy stuff that's so cheap that we're having to repair it all the time. We want quality of stuff. I mean, if you can believe what you're hearing from what the vendors are saying, they're really surprised that we still have this many original units on the building, being in the weather that we're currently in. So we have gotten our money's worth out of these units. So
What brand were those units? Because they obviously lasted a long time.
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. They're sunburnt and faded. I don't think there's
Because
anything
the
on them anymore.
2002 one, we only got 17 years.
Yeah, I think what the technician said on that one, I mean, take into account that this is secondhand to me, was that the unit was undersized in the first place, and so it just continued to work really hard. And so that's why they're recommending that we go to a larger unit, because of the area and because of the windows. I mean, if we solve that problem down the road, we'll just have a larger unit up there that just won't run as hard.
Who installed that unit?
I have no idea.
Okay, but it wasn't this BMI company.
I don't believe so. No, this is a company that Mr. Patton found a couple of years ago, and staff to come in and do our work. They have come in and been very reliable, or the most part responsive. So if we have an issue, they get down here fairly quick. And I know that, we do have an issue in the atrium, but, we have to replace it because that's broke. And so it really doesn't make any sense to spend $20,000 to fix something that's still going to be obsolete, instead of putting a new one in that's a little bit larger to handle it. So, but yes, we can bring back to quality life as we work our way through the process.
Any other discussion? Any public comment?
More of a question than a comment, but are all these units the heat pump type units? Yes?
Yeah, they're dual packs.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure whether we had separate heating and
No, they're together.
Okay. And one other question, you mentioned the solar field, and it's generating more energy than we are actually using. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay. The extra energy, does that get bought by SCE or what? Is it just excess energy?
I believe it's just excess energy. When we designed the system, we all had different computers on our desks. There was a different demand. LED has saved us a considerable amount of money, but you also have to look at when we built it, we had quite a few more employees, so we have less employees.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sir?
Bard Lauer, I'm sorry, Ron, I hadn't thought of this till right now, and I'd want council to have a thought on it. When Public Works does things at times, they do alternate bids. You mentioned there's at least 4 or 5 more units that are 17 years old, and you mentioned that they run their lifespan at 15 to 20. If when we put this out to bid, we do an alternate bid for the rest of them to see if we can keep it within the money available. So instead of maybe the 350, maybe the 380, or whatever's available in tab, as long as you have a chance to keep it under and it's an alternate bid, and maybe you take, if it comes in where you can get 3 more units done for the 350 or whatever, you get the 3 units done and stop. Just a thought before council votes on it.
Yes, that's a good consideration. I know that we have one brand new unit that was just put on here, I believe, 1.5 years ago. So yes, we can, if we have other units that are, if it turns out we have 3, maybe 4 more units that were put in 2002, and if we can fit it in the budget, then why not?
Great. Okay, no more discussion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. The next is item number 7, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a license permitting the Desert Empire Fairgrounds the use of the Ridgecrest Motorsports Complex located at 570 South Richmond. Ron?
Madam Mayor, I have this one. Just as a side note, Mr. Patton's on vacation. Him and his wife had an opportunity to take their children out of town before school started, so I allowed him to go out of town. I'll take care of the staff report. What I have here before you is a license agreement with the Desert Empire Fairgrounds to license the use of our motorsports complex that's located to the southeast of the fairgrounds. In the staff report, actually in the agreement, it originally stated that it would be, the initial agreement would be for a year, and that the fairgrounds had 6 months to construct a 6-foot chain link fence around the property. We have since, Mr. Holloway, who's the manager of the fairgrounds, came back, stated there was a little bit larger cost to that chain link fence, so I'm requesting to alter the license agreement tonight to make it a 2-year agreement and allow the Desert Empire Fairgrounds a year to construct the 6-foot chain link fence to secure the facility. Now they're looking at, the fairgrounds is looking at working with a private entity to bring back motorsports, motocross back to the community. This is a great location for that activity. We also every year have an organization that comes into town every year and uses the facility, Viewfinders, and we've included in the agreement that 1 week out of the year that they're allowed to use the facility for their event. The city's been sponsoring that event, I believe, for going on a decade. With this agreement, the fairgrounds has agreed to indemnify the city, one event up to $2 million, a multiple event up to $4 million.
May I?
Yes.
City Attorney's Office prepared the license agreement, so it has indemnification provisions that the city is defended and held harmless if anyone is injured. And we have, as Ron was saying, we have ample insurance requirements as well.
Yeah, we think this is good for the community. The city is not interested in running or managing a motocross track. There is a benefit to the city in getting that area secured. Currently, it is secured primarily by some small wire strand fencing that's easily cut by the kids that go in and race their bikes in the park there with the mounds that have been left over. So we feel that by allowing the Desert Empire Fairgrounds to license and then work with the community to bring back motocross race into the community, it's good for everybody. We can terminate this agreement with a 45-day notice if the city chooses to do so. It does have an agreement that the city manager can continue this agreement annually after 2 years for $1 to allow them to continue. So I'm available for any questions. I know Mr. Holloway's in the audience. He's available for any questions if you choose so. Otherwise, I'm recommending council authorize the city to enter this agreement with the Desert Empire Fairgrounds.
Chip, do you have something you'd like to say? Okay, if we have questions, we know who to call.
It sounds like Mr. Mauer might be trying to say something.
Mike?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I was hearing noises.
Okay, is there
Sorry.
questions from council? Okay, let's open to the public.
Good evening, Richard Wagner. I'm excited. Hey, thanks for keeping this going and getting something going. I do have a couple questions about the agreement, though. I read it over. The structures are off limits according to this agreement. I'm hoping that we can revisit that maybe next term, because it would be nice to use one of those structures for event scoring when we do have other events besides the viewfinders. It's nice to keep the racers out while you're trying to score, and so having a closed door so you can do a scoring would be nice. Another reason I would like the structure is maybe we can have a vendor sell small common parts, tires, levers, gloves, goggles, tear-offs. It'd be nice if they can go in there and sell as well. And then finally, restrooms. I know we have the outhouses. Several years ago, my poor daughter got heat exhaustion just from being in there for 2 minutes. If we could use the restrooms in those facilities, it would be nice. Obviously, there would be costs to get those up to par and usable. And I think the community would be willing to step in, as they did previously, and help out with those costs and the construction.
Yes, that can be a consideration for the future. Currently, the city uses the facility adjacent to that to grow alfalfa with the effluent from the wastewater facility.
Right.
Our plan, once the new facility is developed, to no longer be growing alfalfa or hay. So that facility will probably be scuttled. Currently, we do use part of that facility to park some of our equipment. However, I believe we're not opposed, to discussing the use of those buildings as you guys progress. If it turns out that what you have is very successful and the city can, move their equipment elsewhere, we'd be willing to discuss it.
That'd be great. The other thing I have is I see the only restriction you impose is the viewfinders weekend. I truly appreciate that because in the previous agreement it was every other week, and I can tell you with the insurance, water, equipment expenses, that every other week will not cut it. We've got to be open every weekend and during the summer on the evenings. So please don't impose any other restrictions besides the viewfinders.
Well, it'd really be up to the fairgrounds to determine how. If Viewfinders wants to come in twice a year and Mr. Holloway wants to allow him in there for 2 weeks a year, that's his business. We just wanted to make sure we had a carve out for the Viewfinders, just because today we're friends, tomorrow there may be a problem. So we want to be able to have that in there in the contract to make sure that we're not having to worry about any sort of dispute resolution.
I can personally say that Viewfinders are happy with you and Chip. Previous fair management did not work with them, but they're definitely pleased with what we've done since then. And thank you. I'm excited. I'm glad to see this happening.
Okay, no other public comment? Any other council comment?
But Madam Mayor, I'd like to at least, when you announce at least 2 changes, because the staff report had the draft agreement in it, if we could just change it to a 2-year agreement and then change it from 6 months to a year for the fair to put in that 6-foot chain link fence, and that would be appropriate.
Do you foresee any other cost to the city?
Microphone.
Nope. Do you foresee any other cost to the city with this agreement?
No, I don't. They've also agreed to pay for any sort of water or electricity use out there. So no, I don't believe. Actually, they're probably going to save the city money because we're not going to have to go out and repair that fence on an ongoing basis to make the area secure. They're going to be responsible for making sure that they keep the motorcycles and kids out of that area.
Okay, thanks.
The only other question, I just wanted to make sure, right now all of the liability for injuries and accidents goes to who exactly, and under this new agreement, they go to who exactly?
Currently, if somebody goes through the fence, well, one, they're trespassing, but if somebody's going to get sued, it's going to be us. Under this agreement, the fairgrounds would indemnify us. It wouldn't mean that we wouldn't get sued along with them, just that they would have to have insurance up to $2 million and then $4 million in the aggregate. So they'd be the ones that'd be getting sued, not us.
So Lloyd, in your opinion, legally, we're not inviting any other significant insurance risk liability? Because we're not talking about marbles here. People get hurt on this thing; it's a big deal.
That's correct. The city is adequately protected. Our office believes the city is adequately protected. And in fact, I'll correct something that Ron is saying. The insurance is one requirement. The indemnification is a separate requirement, meaning the indemnification is no matter how much the city is sued for, that the city is protected, even if it goes beyond what the insurance limit is.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's my only main concern. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, a motion?
I motion approval with the 2 amendments.
Second. Okay.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. The next item is a public hearing. Public hearing to take the final steps to complete the formation of Landscaping and Lighting District Number 2019-1, Track 6908, and concurrent annexation to the Landscaping and Lighting District 2012-1 as Zone 4. Sir.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, council members, as indicated, this is the final steps for conducting the public hearing for the actual annexation of tentative track 6908 into our Lighting Landscape Maintenance District 2012-1. This particular annexation will be a Zone 4 out of our landscaping districts. The tasks that we have for you tonight are fairly simple. First of all, we're going to conduct the public hearing. Mayor, you're going to open up the public hearing, and you're going to hear public testimony as well as any written statements regarding objection or protest to the balloting. The next thing you're going to do is to close the public hearing, and you're going to ask the city clerk to open the ballots and to tabulate those ballots. And then on completion of the ballot tabulation, we're going to be asking you to adopt a resolution declaring the results of the protest ballots. And then if the majority protest does not exist, then you'll adopt the final resolution, which confirms the Lighting Landscape Maintenance District. And a little bit of background here. I think last council meeting you folks did take a resolution of intent to your intention to establish this annexation. I believe you accepted an engineer's report, and you also set a date for a public hearing. And along with that, the landowner did sign a waiver, a petition waiver, waiving the mandatory 45-day public hearing or protest ballot period. So with that, we're able to bring this to you at a much accelerated rate, and now we're asking you to take these final steps to annex the tentative track map 6908 into our Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District. I do have Jim McGuire that's on the phone with us tonight. If you have any technical questions, anything regarding the engineer's report or any technical issues, I'm merely a facilitator for you tonight to direct you through the process. Technical questions would have to be directed to Mr. McGuire.
Can we confirm
With
he's on
that,
the line?
Jim, are you out there? I was on the phone with Jim earlier yesterday, and he was going to be on a flight. He expected to be in by 6:40 p.m. California time, Pacific time, and he said he would try to log in. So he would try to call
not
in.
on.
So
Do I understand that?
at
Gary
least
is
I'm
saying he is
I'm
not on.
hearing any.
Not on.
I'm not hearing any response.
No,
so
okay.
I would not be able to answer any technical questions
Okay.
for you.
All right. Well, I'm going to open the public hearing so that we will take testimony or anything anybody wants to say and go from there. And if we have technical questions, we'll do the best we can. Is there anybody who would like to say anything?
Chuck Rulin, 1213 Carolyn Street. On these landscape lighting districts, one of the things I think we need to do is maybe have some sort of oversight committee because what we're seeing as far as the maintenance that we're getting for the amount of money that people are paying is not what the taxpayers should be getting, or not what, it's one of those things where it needs to be looked at very seriously. And then, our reserves, where we have 10 times the amount of what it costs to do the maintenance and some of the reserves, that needs to be taken into consideration. And then also our Willdan engineer. I mean, you guys saw the same report that I dealt with, 2-3 weeks ago, and when you look at those numbers, those just aren't accurate. So I voted yes on this tonight because I, pretty much worked at what I feel is a reasonable deal. But moving forward, I think we're going to be in some big trouble if we don't get a good handle on these things. Yeah. I have zero confidence in the engineer, none. That's all I have to say.
Chuck, you're saying that you're okay with this going ahead. What you really would like to see in the future is some oversight on the whole process.
I'm okay with it because I would like to see the city be able to recapture the money for the landscape and the lighting. And what I'm seeing is not that. What I'm seeing is first of all, and I know because I got the report sent to me, they're not taking the money. They're not. It's not like the city. I saw the report. They're not billing a whole bunch of money to these landscape lighting districts. They're completely mismanaged to the point where they need to be looked at by possibly an oversight committee. I mean, it's brutally bad. Yeah. I mean, if you go look at Walmart and you go look at all these other areas, it's a disaster.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Rulon, I agree with you. I do agree that we can bring him to the infrastructure committee meeting on an annual basis to take a look at what's in the reserves, what has been spent, and what we're going to move forward on, because this is an annual thing that we have to approve every year. So I agree with you that maybe some oversight on that will help with the committee. I do know that we are in the process of putting out the bid for all of the landscaping lighting districts, so we're going to get a pretty good idea here within probably 30 days of what the bids are going to come back at to maintain those, and then so we'll have a little bit better idea what our costs are going to be. So we are in the process of trying to audit this and make sure that it's fair for those that are paying the money. Be assured if we have an account that has 10 times the amount in it, then we might do what we did behind Walmart. We might rebate some of the money, get to a proper reserve, and then make sure we're moving forward. So yes, we are trying to get a handle on it. So yes, I think we can move forward in that manner.
And I appreciate that. And one of the things I wanted to say is when we generate that RFP, we need to put some forethought into it, because I know who bid the district before, and I know the reason why it was so high. If you just put out an RFP without any type of forethought at all, you're going to get some crazy number. What we need to consider doing is going out and, number one, minimizing the plants that we have at the district up on the hill. All the stuff that's dead, let it be dead. Clean up the irrigation, consolidate that maybe down to 25% of what its natural design was. Same with Walmart. Clean it up or get an initial cleanup and then put the RFP out. Otherwise, you're going to get the same. And one of the things I wanted to bring up too is we keep on talking about prevailing wage. For the landscape maintenance part of this, even prevailing wage, it's only 33 cents an hour more than regular minimum wage. So prevailing wage for landscape maintenance right now is $12.33 versus $12. Well, so you're not looking at a substantial so you do concrete, it's $15 or $18 an hour. You do concrete prevailing, it's $45. So we should be able to get very competitive bids if we do this the right way, where we can.
You do understand, Mr. Rulon, that yes, we do have to pay prevailing wage, and I apologize for maybe leading you to believe that the prevailing wage was the primary driver of the cost. But I think the primary driver of the cost is what they call the free economy, the market rate.
Well, no, I agree. I'm not saying that either. I'm
Okay.
just letting people know that it's
Right.
substantially lower than what you're normally, because prevailing wage gets a connotation where it's just extremely high.
Prevailing wage is an issue that the city has when we do public works projects. That makes projects very expensive.
And this one, we shouldn't have that. We should be able to also, when we're soliciting these bids too, let the people bidding know that the prevailing wages, because I would have never thought it. I couldn't believe it when I looked it up.
You have to understand that with prevailing wage also comes the duty and the requirement for the proper paperwork that goes along with it. In case the city gets audited, we have to ensure that whoever has that project is doing the paperwork, or we're accountable.
And I deal with this all the time. It's
Yes,
certified
I know.
payroll, which is a small percentage to add on to that. You can sub that out to SAS or Continental Labor. So again, with all that being said, if we do this right, we should be able to get all our landscape lighting districts in a condition that will make the city proud, where when they go ask other developers to join these districts, that there's some reason that developer would want to do it.
I think you and I are on the same page.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Wagner again. I was confused as I read this. Obviously, I don't know much. I'm a little ignorant. But I was hoping to see a map so I can figure out what track 6908 was, but there was no map. So my question is, does this not pertain to the whole of the city? Is the whole city not going to be taxed for this? And I saw that there were ballots and voting. So it just the folks in that track were mailed ballots and voted? So this really doesn't pertain to me, and I don't need to be speaking on it?
Honorable Mayor, I might be able to answer that for you.
Go ahead.
Yes, the annexation is just for a particular tract of land. This particular tract of land is bound by West Drummond, North Inyo, and Tamarisk, if you know where that's at. It's in the northwesterly quadrant of our city. It's currently under construction. You can see grading currently occurring out in there. Another landmark would be it's behind the little commercial complex. It's right on the corner of Downs and Drummond.
All right.
It's a vacant parcel behind that commercial complex.
Okay.
And the assessment district is simply to annex that particular tract of land into our current parent lighting and landscape maintenance district, and that is called 2012-1. That was the year in which the initial assessment district was established.
Got it. So anyone moving to that track will be assessed the tax for lighting?
Yes, it's unique by the number of streetlights and the amount of landscaping that might occur with any one development.
Thank you.
It's their unique costs that are spread amongst those landowners or property owners or future homeowners that will pay for those costs to maintain landscaping and lighting.
Great. Thanks for the explanation. I understand it now. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That's why you did not get a ballot that you were looking for. Okay.
So I have a comment, a couple comments. One, I want to say, as we heard at the last meeting, I'm very disappointed in Wildan and their performance on this. Pretty much what I heard was he just made the numbers to make the numbers quantify to what he wanted them to be, and we heard that things were left in that shouldn't have been left in. We know that extra money was paid to try and get things fixed, and this isn't the first time that I've been disappointed in Wildan, and so I'd really like to stress that we would look outside of using them for, all I ever hear is, well, just like on the sewer inspections, well, we're going to talk with Wildan. It just seems like that we're using them for everything, and maybe we're not always getting the quality from them that we should be. I'm happy to hear that for the pavement management study, likely we're going to do that in-house, because when they did that, it did not go well. So that's a comment there. I think maybe we should possibly look at eliminating these on these small developments, because the cost that they're paying for these reports is exorbitant. I believe he paid well over $10,000 for his report. That could have powered those lights in that neighborhood for 8 years. So that's just something to think about. And I agree that with the concern on the current districts and the care that we're giving them. Walmart, the area on Walmart when they first opened was very beautiful, and it has been let go because it hasn't been getting cared for properly. And then some of those trees blew over, they got chopped down. So we can do better. And
some of the Walmart area in our defense belongs to Walmart, not the city.
But wasn't there? So are they allowed just to go chop that in after we tell them to put it there and make it look nice?
They're the property owners. If they want to change their landscaping, they can do that.
Okay.
How often do we spot check and do a quick sanity check on Wildan's fees compared to other firms? I mean, do they have to go out
Is this part of the hearing process? Do we, because the hearing was for the public.
Yes, that's correct. This
okay.
would be.
We can close the public
Staff
hearing.
would
and
recommend
then
closing the public
sure.
hearing.
Sure.
Yeah, can we address that maybe during infrastructure, that question regarding Wildan?
I guess, and I wanted to point out that I asked Lloyd if I could make a comment during this public hearing, because even though I'm up here, I'm still part of the public, and I still have concerns
understand.
about those issues.
But this wasn't part of the, looking at Wildan's was, I think, is more than
Right.
what the hearing is for.
Okay.
Am I incorrect, sir?
No, that makes perfect
Okay.
sense.
All right.
I just had one more quick comment on the previous speaker. So I'm required to vote yes on this. It's not even if I don't get to move forward. I don't get to build homes. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's not like, it's not an option. You either do it or you don't move forward. So I wanted to clear that up.
Okay. Well, then, since there's no other public comment, I'm going to close the public hearing and receive comments and open the ballot. And then close the public hearing.
Mayor, I've received one ballot tonight from Mr. Ruland. The one ballot is vote for yes in favor, and the parcel assessment amount is $1,520, and the vote again is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, there's
Okay.
3 here? I apologize. Thank you, Chuck. The second one is yes, and the total assessment is $2,432. The third one is yes, and the total assessment is $2,888. So we have 3 yeses.
Okay. All right, we've received comments, opened the ballot, and we'll close the public hearing. Now, if there's any other discussion that council would like to have, I don't think there's any problem with that, sir, is it?
No, now would be the time for
Okay.
council deliberation.
Well, I know in discussing this with Mr. Rowland also, he brought up a couple of issues. You know, he said, for one thing, he said he's got a tract here, he's got another tract, 100 yards? Is that what you told me? But from each other. And what do you know? So he has to pay, what did you tell me, $15,000, $16,000 for each one of these studies? Okay. Well, I guess the issue, the spirit, I guess we're talking about the spirit of the law, the spirit of Wildan, the spirit of this. I think in the spirit of this, anything that we can group, I mean, Wildan or anybody, it's not just Wildan, but they've been doing these things for 100 years. So they know exactly. My guess is it's kind of like a realtor. Please forgive me because I was one. But, you know, the client gets this big analysis, you know, on the value of the home, but a lot of it is they end up putting in 8 or 10, 15 different pieces of data, and the computer spits that. It's a software program. And I'm sure that Wildan has the same sort of a program where they take the thing and they put in 15 numbers and boom, they generate this big fancy report and charge cities $15,000. And then I believe that you told me that they also get a percentage of this, a certain fee every year, correct? So all I'm saying, we can discuss this in infrastructure, but what I'm saying is this. We're a little town. We need developers to develop housing. And we've had 3 or 4 developments that were going to happen, and without getting into all that, they're not happening. So we have one or two, there have a few developers. This gentleman's been here constantly. He's the only one that I'm seeing that's coming up here. Again, that's still trying to get some houses built. And I think no matter how we twist it and how we turn it and however we do it, and I understand the city's position, and you're following the thing of Santa Clarita, and it seems like these big numbers, that's what everybody's using. I'm for all of that, I guess. And even I've heard Chuck say he's not adversarial to the city. But however we twist and however we turn, I think that if the big nut drivers that keep those costs up, that the small developers have to meet, because great big numbers from companies like Willdan, again and again. So instead of just grouping these two in their generic thing they spit out, maybe we shouldn't be paying for two 9,500s or 2 10.5 or 14 that we just routinely rubber stamp up here. We're a little town with a little money. We have a housing crisis and a few passionate builders who want to get something done. So my comment is just the spirit of the thing. I think that when we evaluate this for next year, we need to evaluate it, take all these things into consideration, and make every concession we can possibly make right now to the small developers who are trying to satisfy our one major problem that the base has identified, which is housing. So that's my comment.
Let me add something here. The end of last year, before everything happened, I had asked for us to look, and I think it was even before that again, I think that was my second request, that we look at that about how we set up a landscaping and lighting district that includes the entire city, instead of doing pockets. And I know we're looking at that.
I'd love to, because it would solve this headache.
Yeah,
but
going through
as you
this
well
all
know,
the time is silly.
We just tried passing a landscaping lighting district for parks, and that's the same process that we do for lights and landscaping. So I think it's the best way to go. I mean, I think that one of the reasons why we're back on our way into this thing is because we should have 20 some odd years ago been doing this all along, and we wouldn't be doing this now.
I know the first year I was on, I didn't understand, this will be my third term, and I didn't understand lighting and landscaping districts. And during that first year, I said, oh my goodness, why are we doing little pockets? It seems inefficient and not a way to do it when everybody benefits. Not only does the property owner benefit from the lights in front of his house, everybody who drives by benefits from those lights and the landscaping and things like that. So I would like to, if we're going to send something back to infrastructure, I would like to see something go back and begin the development of something like that. So meanwhile, that has nothing to do with this. So let's go back to where we are on this. And do we have any more council discussion? Okay, is there a motion?
We need to do 2 resolutions here, Mayor.
Okay, that's correct.
So the first one will be for declaring the results of the property owner protest ballot proceedings. I need a motion for that one, please.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 no, motion carries.
Okay, and the second motion?
Will be for confirming the formation of the Landscape and Lighting District number 2019-1. Need a motion?
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Mauer?
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 no, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is committee report. City org, I know, did not meet, correct? Finance committee, we did not meet.
Correct.
I don't think anybody met.
Nobody met.
Okay, we'll go through all of those. Nobody has met. Did the did the RECVB meet?
No, it's next week.
Okay, are there anybody who wants to report on other boards or commissions? Okay, city manager's report.
I'd just like to recognize and and thank staff for all their hard work that they've done over the last month in responding and the recovery process of the two earthquakes at the beginning of July. I've been very proud that they've kept up with some of our normal duties as well as taking care of the stuff we have to. I know that particular Chief McLaughlin's done a great job. He's been very inspirational as well as you, Madam Mayor, in making sure that the community has been informed and everything we can do to address not only the damage caused by the earthquake, but also the feelings that the earthquake had brought up amongst folks of the insecurity that folks have of the ground rumbling around them. And I think you guys have done an outstanding job in that effort. So I just like to make sure everybody is recognized and thanked for their above and beyond the call of duty work in this matter.
Thank you. Okay, future agenda items. Anybody?
I have one. I understand that we are still doing paper time cards. And is there at some point when we're going to get into this century, I mean, even last century, and do that electronically? Because that just seems really inefficient.
It is on our list of things to do. Right now we're still, working through a few projects. We still haven't totally finalized our migration to another banking institution, but it is on our list of things to do, and we're hoping to accomplish that during this fiscal year.
And along with that, are we going to start taking credit cards too?
Yeah, I'll let Sheree. She's been working really hard. In fact, one of the items that you approved during the budgetary process was a fee recovery for the credit card machines, but she can discuss where we're going with that.
Yeah, I just had a few citizens ask about that. So
we actually, is this on? We are in the process of switching our credit card company right now. We're getting ready to do all the training and get our new credit card machine set up. We're hoping to go live with that on September 3rd.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, any other council comments?
That was future agenda items.
I'm sorry, that was future agenda items. Okay, any other future agenda items? Okay, council comments?
Yes, I just wanted to echo the thanks that he's giving, because I know that a lot of our staff has put in a lot of extra hours and effort for the disaster, but then also had to maintain their regular jobs. And so that's been tough on them. And then also about last night, it was a really enjoyable evening, and that documentary was very inspirational too. So I think that was a very good thing for our community after everything that we've gone through in the last month. So thank you for organizing that, Jed, and everyone else who donated to it and served food and passed out school supplies. So.
No, I second that. Staff's done a terrific job. Thank you.
Scott? Well said. No other comments. Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I've got two things. Number one, I'd request that the discussion we had about landscaping districts be put on the next agenda for infrastructure. And number two, I'm glad to report that starting next Monday, we'll be heading home.
Yay. Good.
It's about time.
Yay, yay.
Okay, I have none. Okay, so we will adjourn. Thank you all for your coming, and we appreciate your comments.